Hey folks, Doc Severson here for the ReadySetCrypto OMNIA newsletter market update for Sunday, the 21st of June. I'm doing this report about 12 hours before the end of the trading day. So in 12 hours, we'll see a set of new candles here, but so far with 12 hours left to go, there's just nothing going on this weekend. The volatility and volume continue to just drift out. This is typically what I see before we see a big move. Now, of course, the next question everybody's going to ask is, well, Doc, that's great. When is this big move going to happen? I don't know. But the closer that we get into the apex of any consolidation, the more likely that we are to get some type of break. That potential energy builds up to the point where there's just no holding it back. We'll look at the energies in just a minute. First thing I want to do here is set the expected moves for the week. This is what the market thinks about the forward movement potential. They're not always right. And what we want to look for is we want to look for those situations where it's just at an extreme, where the overall market doesn't think that there's going to be any forward movement. And this is typically when the majority get it wrong. So we're almost at the expiration for June in Deribit. This is the June 26 options, which have been long dated, long time out there. And we have an expected move of plus minus 460. So that translates to an upper target by the end of this week of 9807. So we're going to bring this one in just a little bit from last week. That's close. And then the bottom end of this is going to be about 8887. So we're going to bring that one up to 87 or close enough to it. And then pull this in. This is our probability cone for the rest of this week. Now, if we do get a move outside of there, this is where a straddle is going to be extremely profitable. But that's what trading is. Trading is not about trying to predict the future. Trading is finding a high probability situation and then putting yourself in the line of fire. Let's go ahead and set the expectation or the expected move for the end of July. So this one is going to be a plus minus 1520 points, which is kind of normal, although we've seen much, much higher than that for the course of the month. That upper expected move is going to show up at 10,867. So we'll start out at 10,867 and we'll get close to that. And then we'll set the bottom alert for this, or the bottom level of the range, and that's going to be 7827. 7827. And we'll get close to that. And then we'll just simply drag that over there. That's our probability cone of 68.2% going forward as expressed by the options participants. This is what they feel is the one standard deviation or 68.2% probability of forward price movement. Now, the big edge through something like this is when the expectations, I'll just say the expectations or the implied volatility is way up here. And then the realized volatility, what actually happens ends up being down in this area. So when that occurs, we can typically sell options quite effectively because we sell the option based on an overestimated forward price movement and then the option just expires. So if we were to do something like that right now, remember these fibs down here at 8,000, can we get something for the July cycle to be able to sell a put at 8,000? So in other words, if the price ends up coming down or if the price ends up just going sideways for here on in, can we commit to an $8,000 BTC versus USD buy by selling that put option and committing to buying at 8,000? Which should be a good level of value. Let's go check the option chain and see what that would pay right now. Now, if we just go out to the 26th June, which expires in a few days here. So this is 4 days, 19 hours away for 26th June. If we just go out to the $8,000 put and we say, okay, could we do something for that? Oop, that's 9,000, sorry. So let's do this one here. So never mind this one. So this is only paying about $33 to leverage an entire Bitcoin. So in other words, you'd be paid the premium of $32, $33, something like that for an $8,000 commitment, which is a return on leverage capital of 0.4%. So a lot of people look at a trade like this and say, wow, okay, but it's $33, but well, this is picking up nickels in front of the steamroller. Eventually you're going to get trapped and run over by something like this. This is not worth it. So when we do something like this, typically we're going to sell a little bit more time. We're going to go out to maybe a 31 July, and let's look at 8,000 again. We're looking at 8,000 because this is a level at which we would be a willing buyer because of the support down there. And right now we're looking at about maybe, let's just say if we negotiate somewhere in the middle between the bid and ask spreads, we can get maybe, let's see if we can negotiate something like 0.03 BTC or $280. Now this is a 3.5% return, which isn't bad. This is definitely a decent use of capital. However, let me give you a couple of points about how to effectively place this trade. When you want to do trades like this, the time to do them is when you have a situation like this, when you have a one-day wonder, when you pull back. So whether or not it was this day here or this day here, or perhaps even one of these days where it was pulling back a little bit. But the more violent the move to the downside, the better off you're going to be, because what happens is the implied volatility ends up going sky high for that period of time. What that allows you to do is one of two things. Either you can sell further out of the money at a decent clip. So in other words, get a decent credit for that, number one, or you can basically take an at the money and get paid a lot for that. So you can pick one of two ways. One's more aggressive, one's more conservative. Typically selling at a target is typically what I will do. Now you can do this here. You can just set up these puts while the price is going nowhere. And we saw what we'd get paid, 3.5% for the one out here, which isn't bad, but you can do a whole lot better if you wait for the next downdraft and sell into that. Now, the thing I'll warn you is you can talk yourself into that now. You can say, yep, okay, Doc, you talked me into it. The next downdraft, the next big red candle, I'm going to sell into that. And I guarantee you that the next red candle that you see like this, and again, this is what it's going to look like on the hard right edge. You're just going to see that. And you're going to say, oh, well, I know I decided to do this last week, but man, it looks like this thing could go all the way down to here. And it does. It will look like that. And this is why your brain plays tricks with you, because your brain is going to say, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? And then it's going to go through its whole inventory of every bad trade that you've ever done, and is going to selectively pick out one memory to prevent you from acting on what you plan today. This is why it's so hard to buy the pullback. And what I'm suggesting is doing exactly the same thing. What you're doing is you're selling the pullback at a bigger distance. But this is one way that you can get used to doing this, because when you sell the pullback, so in other words, if we did see something where we break this trend line and maybe the price comes down to 87.50, then what you can do is either decide to sell at 8,000 or maybe go slightly below there and still get a reasonable rate of return. Remember, there's no replacement for displacement when you're selling an option. The bigger or the more distance that you get out of the money gives you a little bit more cushion. However, it does come at a cost of less potential credit. All right, quick scan through the top 10. Let's see what's going on. Actually, Ethereum looks to be much better than most other charts. It still looks pretty good. That's not what we were saying way back here. It was not looking really good back here. And even back here, this was more of a bear flag. I'm still surprised that we were able to mount such an impressive rally from here, but Ethereum looks okay. A lot of these other ones do not look okay. I've kind of gone through this over the last few days, and all of these charts have almost exactly the same look to them, even in the top 10. Even former stars such as Tezos is not doing all that great. Your Stellar Lumen's not doing all that well. Chainlink is doing okay. At least is showing some accumulation down here, which is good. 0x, not too bad. Really nothing all that looks great, right? Nothing really looks great, where we were talking about how great this was just a couple of months ago, back in May. Now, I think one of the bigger problems is right now, again, the larger equity markets are showing some signs of being a little too frothy. And my concern right now with the larger equity markets is that we're setting up for potentially a lower high, which is going to pull down to, if we pull this out to a weekly chart, this is just going to be the next weekly pullback, which is going to be normal, but you're going to hear so much, right? You're going to hear so much of this negativity coming from any kind of a pullback. People are just going to assume that here we go again, we're coming down all the way to 2000 on the S&P, where it's not going to be the case. It's going to bounce probably at a fib point, and that's where the next leg of the rally can start to sprout from. Now, as to whether that treats itself or becomes a lower high, we don't know that at this point. We're going to just take this one swing at a time. But this is where I'm starting to see the larger markets ebb to, and this may end up being a negative drag on the rest of the risk assets out there, including cryptocurrencies. Now, one last thing from today's report, looking at the crypto screener, we have a couple of these that are actually doing quite well. So this is QKC, Quark Chain. Don't ask me what they do. Don't have a clue, but we do have a price chart that's in accumulation right now, which of course is illegal. That can't happen. So anytime we see an altcoin that is accumulating, it will get pounded down, but not before you can get some pretty nice gains from here. So this is an ascending triangle pattern. Maybe we have an upside target somewhere up in this area here. So let's see if we can do something with that one. So again, that's Quark Chain, which is on Binance right now. That is it for today's report. Let's hope for some movement sometime soon. Thanks for listening, guys. Happy Father's Day. We'll see you tomorrow.